Okay, very good. So today we have Dr. Rodolfo Perez giving our seminar. He's going to be talking about building standards certifications and a little bit about building science as well. So Rodolfo is a senior director at WELL, which is, as he probably will describe, is a company that does building certifications. And so a little bit about his background. Rodolfo is originally from Chile, just like me. He graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a PhD, and he also received an undergraduate degree in industrial engineering, as well as aesthetic from the Catholic University of Chile. And after he graduated, he has been mostly working in industry. He's held, several positions in industry. And as I said before, right now he is working for this WELL company that does building certification. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass it on to Rodolfo. And so Rodolfo is okay with you guys asking questions throughout the seminar. So you can choose, whether to ask questions as he speaks or at the very end. So with that, Rodolfo, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you all, and good morning, everyone. Let me start sharing. I have a presentation for you. So, as Fernando said, I'm going to talk about building certifications, and particularly WELL certification, which is where I work. I'm going to start talking about why we're here, what we do at IWBI, International Well-Being Institute. How we insert in a bigger landscape of building certifications, and what are the trends that drive what we do. I hope you learn a little bit about the well-building standard, the strategies that we espouse, how it applies to buildings and certifications and organizations. Sorry, and if you're interested, I'm always happy to follow up. When we talk about health in general, and I have my background is in environmental engineering, mainly water engineering, and then work for a little while in public health. And the word that comes from the WELL is how to apply health. If there's one word I want you to remember for today's health. And we, as in IWBI and the WELL certifications, tend to be positioned as a sustainability certification. So like LEED, of which you might be familiar. There are others around the world like BREEAM in the UK or Green Star in Australia. So this is kind of where we are. And as such, we are in between. It's a very multidisciplinary enterprise. It's a very multidisciplinary concept. Health itself it is. And we'll see why I say that in the next slides. But first of all, let's see what health means for us. And when we think about WELL, or when we think about health, we think of health as a state of as just like absence of disease, but a state of well-being. It's not just being reactive when it comes to health, being reactive like prevent disease, but also promote well-being. And what we bring with well-being is something that affects the physical, social, and the mental aspect of us. Now, when we think about, what determines health, it's not just, the medical care. It's not just the genes. It's the way we live and where we live. Our environment. We continuously interact with, people, air, substances, water. It's not just the chemicals or microbes that might be there. It's way beyond that, and it's actually one of the main drivers of the state of health. One thing that's very important when you think about these environmental, physical, and social aspects is like, where are you located right now? Probably indoors. We spend approximately 90% of our time indoors. Do you think that 90% would not affect your health? It probably does. Very likely it does. So, in this certification in WELL, and what we do is to try to foster health in this places that we live, work, and play, we spend most of the times. So as such, we think about what we do well, advance health in places where we actually spend our lives. And something I heard from Dr. Joe Allen from Harvard, that he talks about use your building as a health agent, not as an agent of disease. So think about that you can have spaces where actually make you feel better or make you feel comfortable, make you feel welcome in some sense. So this is kind of like the background information. It's like, this is where we are. Now, what is this? What does IWBI is? What it espouses is the well-being standard. This is our way to actually bring things forward. And what is a well-being standard? It's just a collection of strategies backed by research and industry best practices that are collected into actionable items that can basically help to provide, again, health in buildings and organizations, because some things are beyond what is just a static building, but is also what can be implemented at an organizational level. We're not here to reinvent the wheel. We collect what we believe are these best practices, things that come up from like standards sometimes, or even regulations from certain countries that are, or even states that have some more health forward policies that can be actionable. And with these strategies, basically what we do is we collect and we can codify these prescriptions that can be actionable. Examples, for instance, when you think of we say in one place, PM2.5, so it's an air measure, it must be below certain threshold. Or something more like a design strategy. If you want to get a point in our strategies, have a space for lactation that has certain design characteristics, like amenities or certain size, for example. Those can be verified by a third party. We write the strategies, but we're not the one actually judging on what's going on. But these strategies, like the one at PM2.5, a third party can go to the space I want to seek that strategy and measure the air and see whether it meets the criteria. Similarly, someone who wants to pursue that lactation room can go and get a map of a plan of the floor or some pictures to support and send it to a reviewer. So again, that's what the kind of actionable strategies that we talk about are important. It's not just something that we just say, but it's not just wishy-washy or wishful thinking. Something actually can be somehow verified one way or another. So the way that we structure the well-building standard in its strategies is through many levels. We have a set of strategies that we have split in what we call 10 concepts. I will talk about that later. And then we have, if you achieve certain of these strategies, you can get a rating or a certification. Again, I'll get to more detail later. And when you have an organization, so think of an example, Uber, for instance, that is a client of us, have like a few of headquarters and offices around the world, and they want, each location meets more plus minus strategies, get some points, and we give like a organizational score. So that's kind of how the way we make our actionable strategies, also kind of like a little bit gamified so people actually can follow them. Strategies that can be pursued by an organization or building management. The strategies can be, as I said before, some of them design-based, performance-based, building operation-based, or policies. As I said before, we structure in our well-being standard, and this is the kind of the beauty of the well-being standard. It's very holistic, so it's very interdisciplinary. We say we put people first, and we divide this into what we call 10 concepts. If you are familiar with LEED certification, they have credits. We call our the strategies features, but it's kind of the same. We have different strategies that can be documented, and we have them packed in different buckets Of this one, two, I personally write everything related to water and materials. As I said before, my background is in environmental engineering, mainly water. And materials, I have been advocating for that for the last 4 years in this company. I have a little bit of materials science expertise that I've been growing into dealing with architects and designers and bringing a little bit of the chemistry behind materials to our client base. But these 10 concepts you see are very variable. Some of them are more related to building science, like when you think about air, even water in many areas. Some of them are more operational. Think of a policy for NAP policy, which some companies do have, and it's proven to actually improve quality of work. That's in mine. Same thing in communities. Some things related to paternity leave, maternity leave that definitely help employers and to feel more connected to the company, feel supported by the company. So that's part of health too. I mean, when you're not stressed about losing your job for having children. So again, you see nourishment, like the food we eat, and I'm gonna go into more detail through these concepts, but it's very holistic. Each of these concepts include mixes of policies and operations, some design interventionists, and in some cases, some performance-based. So say with performance, mean like someone measures a parameter on site and give us the result to bring that into a certification or rating they're seeking. So let's go and let's scan what they are. Think of air. What do we think of air? First of all, it's straightforward. It's like you can't have a healthy building that doesn't have air that is healthier, which means you meet certain chemical thresholds. Some strategies depends on the type of building or organization. Like they can follow different ones, like air filtration, enhanced ventilation, minimize combustion, which is interesting because there's now some push, at least here in New York, to reduce the number of gas stoves, because combustion in gas stoves can cause gases like NOx, for instance, and nitrogen oxide that can affect you. So again, like depending of what strategies are most suited for a building or organization, they have the flexibility to follow some of them. But you can see the hot topic here. It's basically provide clean air. I mean, that's simple. Smoke-free. I mean, we all know what smoke does for air, not the best. What you do under construction is important, and how to manage certain HVAC components to reduce mold, like how you manage like to evaporators and coolers, and you have a source there that can create mold. Thermal comfort, as the name says, it's thermal comfort. I mean, and it's personal. So we enable strategies, or we put out strategies that I encourage you to look at. I mean, the standard, all the strategies are free and open to the public. It's nothing secret here. We want to expand, that's our mission, the awareness of this. Some of them are performance metric related. There's some recent business standard, ASHRAE 55, that define what like windows of comfort. And also we encourage individual thermal comfort. Sometimes we have free address, same places in the same space that can be warmer or cooler depending on your personal preferences. We have humidity control that can be not only good for people, but also good for environment, to avoid to have a good way to control to reduce mold when you have a relatively not too hot, not too wet environment. So those are things that we put in thermal control that definitely affect our experience of a place. Now, my pet peeve, water. Water means first of all, it means having not beyond safe water that you'd like to drink, palatable water. So some things are related to taste. Some of them we verify that the water meets certain safety thresholds that are given in regulation. Like for instance, disinfection byproducts for those who are in the environmental track, or the right level of disinfectant, or some issue like you might hear in the news, lead and copper. So trying to verify on site what the water is. Sometimes the water within a building can change, and we want to make sure that at the point of use is the right water. Some things are more taste and odor, like for instance, too much calcium, magnesium might feel like off on taste, might discourage people to drink water, the primary means of hydration that we have. And drinking water promotion is important. Basically, if you see water dispensed, you're probably more likely to drink it. Moisture management, key in new building, have strategies to reduce the impact of moisture and mold, let alone to the durability of the building. And hygiene support, bathroom accommodations for everyone, so everyone feels has a safe and clean environment in restrooms. Now, when we think of nourishment, now here we're talking about what we eat, and how do we relate to what we eat. So say, like, if you encourage alternatives to have a little bit of a food production on site, you have, and I'll show some pictures later, but if you have a place where you can grow some vegetables, you definitely have a little bit more connection of what you have. If you know what you're eating, also, if your awareness is a good thing, like particularly when it comes to added sugars and salt, in particularly. So know what you're eating, make it clear, make it easier for people with dietary needs to meet their needs. Educate, also manage portions. I mean, they have a bigger plate, you're more willing to fill it, which can be a cue to reduce plate size, for instance, and eat in the right place. Sometimes we tend to eat in front of the screen. It's not the best way to kind of relate with your food, and that triggers definitely some sort of a backlash against to proper nutrition. So different strategies, different ways to that our clients see how to interpret what good food can be. Light. When you think of light, we are circadian animals. We have different. We react to sunlight. We wake up. Not always, but like the countryside, you wake up with the sun. Go back to live with the sun. But that is definitely something that is in our primal self, kind of having a circadian rhythm. That includes color, for instance, the color of the light. And when you're performing a task, you want to have good light exposure of good quality and good availability. So those things are within the light concept. Similarly, your electric light should be of quality, doesn't have too much flicker. That might affect your eyes, but then actually might stress you up. I mean, there's more studies like relating all these impacts of different stimuli to our own selves, to our mental health. Glare, another issue that might be mentioned here. So many different ways to achieve what we want, which is in brighter and better days and in darker and darker nights. Movement, when you think of movement, it's not just like going to the gym. It's also how to make your space more suitable for micro movements, for instance. In my case now, actually, my company subsidized my this sit stand desk. It's a way basically to kind of regulate height, and also keep me slightly active more than I would be if I'm sitting in front of the computer. Same thing with ergonomics. That matters, especially as for the ones like yours truly, who's getting older and things start hurting more and more. And sometimes there are cues. For instance, if you're in an office, where will you put the stairs? If you want to incentivize people to take it, will you put in a nice place, like make it very visible, or you put it in a corner, like in a where no one sees it. Those are design decisions that might affect the way you interact with your building and change how you approach movement within your own office space. Now, when you think about sound, acoustics, it's not just not listening to the other ones, but also having the design that allows you to speak clearly at the right volume. Have you heard about professors losing their voice? Well, can we do something about it? Probably we can. So it's not just background isolation. Some areas are meant to talk. Some areas are to focus. Some areas are to have a speaker to an audience. So those things, there are some design strategies that can address that. Now, materials. That's my hat I wear here. And it's mainly to reduce as much as we can the unwanted exposure to chemicals that are known or presumable hazardous, or there's enough research to think it's not good to get exposed to that. I mean, classic cases, history, lead and asbestos lead the way. PCBs, it's pretty bad. But there's more than that. When you think about when you go to school and you see, cleaning products, think about the smell of the clean smell. Sometimes the clean smell actually might make you, dizzy on the long run. And actually, a lot of the VOCs that you see that you smell in a building, or they might be actually might or make you slightly sick, come from cleaning products. So can we have clean products that are better? And not only for the users of the space, but also for those who clean. I have a story of the person who used to clean in our office, which we had to certify. We went to walk the talk a little bit, and she always wanted to go to our office because her hands stay in better shape. Because we have to think of who's interacting with us, cleaning chemicals. So recommend some that are safer or of lower hazard it was one of the strategies that really helped the ones around us. Same thing with a hazardous waste management or reduce pesticides. Sometimes if you want to manage pests, you don't always need a pesticide. So think beyond the box and get this thing moving. And now in the more, since we're in special topics in engineering, but when you think about minds, people don't think about engineering, but there's a little bit of engineering there. How can we connect? Basically, we are wired to nature. We are wired to green and blue spaces, for instance, green nature, blue water. How can we make them available in the built environment? We can do that.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Of course.
So there was a couple of questions in the chat. First one was from Professor Fernando. He asked, how do you make sure those items are within standard? Since most buildings don't monitor those items.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason is, I say the way we do it is actually we for the performance side of it, when you think about light or acoustics, actually, in order to get certified, someone needs to go there. A third party, so it's not the people engaged in the project. We have what we call performance testing agents that are independent from us and the client, and they do the measurements. So, and they provide the data to our reviewers, and they say, okay, this place meet the standard. Same thing when we talk. That's the most verifiable thing. Also with photos that are provided by these agents, they submit it to our reviewing agents. So we don't actually issue the certifications or the achievements. It's a third party who does that for us. So and I say most buildings don't do that. Of course, to date we don't have, given the amount of build space, we don't have everything certified. But the ones who are seeking certification, and I'll show a picture, you see this. You can feel, and actually, if there's something that really sells well, is when someone walks into a well-certified space, because you feel the difference, you feel the level of care about those details, and then the design and implementation that it does. Yes, the next question is about older, about already built buildings. That's a great question that we get quite often. And yes, we have some strategies can be implemented. Not all. We don't say all of this.
Sorry, let Maxi read the question so others know what the question is.
So yeah, it's just the question says things like good lighting, ergonomic design, and acoustics seem difficult in older already built buildings. Are these strategies? Are there strategies to get around this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes. So basically, when you do a renovation, and like for instance, where are you going to find more likely to find asbestos? That's an existing building. So that's why we put some strategies that are tailored to existing buildings to actually to make the move to a healthier one. Of course, there are limitations, and we're aware of them. For instance, when access to light in an older building, so how can you provide light as a mix of sometimes external sources and mix that with electric light. So upgrades are electric lights, and we have buildings. Our own office is in 100 and it was built in 1920 something, and in rich platinum. So there we kind of had to walk the talk when it comes to an existing building, and it is possible. So yeah, we have strategies. Basically, we put the standard in consciously providing cues for existing buildings as well, and then there's a legion of people who are architects, designers, and sustainability consultants who implement these things, these strategies and being able to achieve well in many types of buildings. And I'll show examples later.
Right, and then the last question, does smart lighting systems have any importance for the field?
Yep, that's not quite my cup of tea, quite the opposite, but yes, we have controllability is one of the things in smart lighting, circadian lighting, basically, overall, is one of the ways to achieve some of those points in well. So definitely we recognize, we kind of take a look at what's going on in the, what's new in the industry, what's next, basically what's worth placing into the well standard as a new alternative to pursue and enable that and kind of move the market so more of these technologies that help to achieve healthier standards of living and working are there. I think no more questions. Let me go back to mine then. Talk a little bit about blue space, green spaces. So that's more design, but also services, policies that help people in distress, like sometimes tobacco cessation, stress management, substance use, and mental health service. I mean, we need to recognize that mental health is health, and is, well, pandemic kind of catalyzed that a little bit, but still quite a bit. Finally, community. And community is kind of more the social side of it, how you engage with others within the building, some emergency preparedness, universal design to make everyone feel welcome. You know, and everyone means someone that there might be a physical impairment or even our neurodiverse impairment or being. So people feeling welcome on the space, regardless of who they are. Provides health services and benefits, civic engagement, I said before, lactation room, new parent support with policies and spaces, and promote diversity and inclusion. Those are things that affect the community, affect the social dynamics within an organization. So we put them here. So those are the 10 concepts we have, and because we all like pictures, or at least I do, some places that have been going through our strategies. So this is based in China, showing a little bit of air sensors all over here, and down some of the visual displays of the air quality, in a city like Shanghai, which is known for its pollution. A rooftop garden, as I mentioned, nourishment, the connection with a place and where we produce. They actually put grow some beans here, and they eat them. So So, gives you a little bit of a more, a connection of, well, in a city, well, this one in New York, where definitely green space is not everywhere, but gives you that kind of a respite and connection to, what you eat. And circadian light, something that smart controllers here, you can see the colors going bluish in the morning, going to more on a warmer as the day progresses. So kind of mimic your circadian rhythm. And some cues for movement, like, like some visual cues, like, oh, do this, like gamifying a little bit the experience, so you can actually foster movement. This was in Tokyo, like a wellness room, where people can practice meditation. So those are cool spaces, but one thing I want to mention, and it's something that we've heard quite a bit, is like, no, this is too expensive, not for everyone. But this is an old article, but we had like a police office, a police station, a hotel, an affordable housing complex to reach a WELL certification. And these buildings, one is in like it's a building in Madrid, like a landmark building in Castellana, and an office in London. So we have different type of buildings, spaces, whole buildings, offices within buildings, new, old, different uses, a preschool, as I said before, police station, and so on. So we try to adapt our system to be, which is really the trick, is to make it kind of achievable by as many typologies we can think of. And it's a global reach, so add that to the mix and it gets even more complicated. But it's a beautiful challenge. So back to, I want to put this again to show you the way we work. We went through the strategies. Now let's see what we achieve with them. We achieve ratings, which are subsets. So we put bits and pieces together and we call them a rating. Or we do the certification that you can get a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum at a building level. So depending how many of these strategies are being pursued and in which category. And then for organizations, like back to Uber, they have 4 certified buildings, platinum, and some of them are in the process, but they get some points, they achieve certain things. So we give them an average score. So first of all, let me talk a little bit about the certification. We have 4 levels. And if you're familiar with LEED, for instance, you see a flag that says LEED Gold or LEED Silver, same thing, WELL Silver, WELL Gold, same thing. We do the same. We act about the same. And I'm going to get back to that, the same later. But we have, for certification, the way it works is, if you go to the website, this is kind of the way you see. We have something that says precondition with a P, or all these icons signal the 10 concepts that I talked before, and you have some mandated minimum requirements. A building doesn't have good water quality, it's not going to pass. It's not going to be certified under WELL. Same thing with a building that hasn't managed asbestos or removed them, it's not going to be certified. There's some minimum thresholds. A building doesn't have any plan for mental health or for its occupants or organization, it's not going to get certified. So those are the thresholds. And then you need to have these points meet a minimum of points, and you pick and choose your strategies. You have to be even, you have to pick strategies for all concepts, hence the holistic side of it. Some strategies, as the question before, they are more related to, might be easy to apply in an existing building. Some of them are newer building. Some of them are more geared to organizations that are large organizations. So like think of a travel policy that wouldn't make sense for a small organization, stuff like that. But so you pick and choose your points, pick and choose your venture, and you get certification at the different levels, as I mentioned before. And for this, you have the performance testing is key. So in this case, for instance, when we say the water, as I said, as Fernando asked before, someone comes in and takes a sample of water and goes and measures it. So it's not you need to have someone else verifying this at the performance metrics. Now, as I said before, we kind of pack a few locations, and you see we created this health safety rating that focused mainly on operations. And today we have over 25,000 plus locations around the world being rated with the system. This one focused mainly in operations. It's by far our most popular offering right now. It was released after the pandemic, and guess what's after the pandemic? People realized that building health matters. Nothing that we didn't know, but because we were there earlier and talking about it for since 2014, it put it in a good place to deliver a set of strategies to get buildings and organizations kind of to guide the organizations to do what they can, to see what they can do and get some certificate of conformity with certain policies. These policies mainly air monitoring, health communication, emergency responsiveness and preparedness, and health benefits, and of course, hand hygiene and cleaning. We also have, we just released what we call the performance rating, which is, again, as the name says, performance-based, where we had air quality measured on site, water quality measured on site, and so on. You can see the categories here. Again, it's like picking from the strategies that we mentioned before. We pack them together. We have actually agreement for a lot of the HVAC and sensor companies to talk to each other, so they know what we offer, so they can start building up. Imagine like a sensor that says, well, you're meeting well, or you need to do this to meet well. So we're reaching the level, we're communicating with the whole industry behind building science to embed well in these performance metrics and into their into platforms. So this is something that you might see. Kind of we're developing these were conversations. We're trying to bring this to the next level. But this is how the system works. I mean you have a ARC, which is also performance measure for LEED. So we're trying to come up with ways to measure performance. And finally, equity. This is the latest offering, and is something that organizations are asking for. Is how to implement equity, or basically what are strategies that help us to implement diversity, equity, and inclusion with the companies. Some of them are design, some of them are operations and policies, and that should help organizations to now with the ESG reporting, which is something I'm going to talk later, to perform better, to actually into something which at the very end is to reduce risk.
Rodolfo, one more question. It's who decides what levels are acceptable? EPA?
Well, we take depends on what. We are, in that sense, we're private, so we put whatever we decide is good, but we follow what is we say we live by science and regulations. So definitely, we as an organization cannot say, and no one can say the water is safe. Only a health department can say so. But the thresholds, we actually follow EPA guidance, WHO guidance as well, and we try to find the right level of stringency that meets regulations and goes beyond that. So we are a leadership standard. We're trying to go sometimes beyond what the regulation is when we believe the battle is won. And sometimes regulations are not the same. I'll give an example now. Disinfection by products are very low compared to in any other countries. The US has the lowest threshold. So trying to tell people, well, that's the threshold we want everywhere. So that's how we kind of decide how to go. And of course, there's always a balance between something. We cannot ask something that we cannot verify, that cannot be achieved. So how to get there, that's part of our work and our background research to write this standard. There's another question there, you don't mind?
Yeah, what is incentivized? Sorry, I can't speak today. What is incentivized?
Incentivizing.
That word. companies to get certified, is it just companies that already cared about their employees' health, or is there productivity, more money benefit as well?
Well, that is actually almost sounds like a planted question, because it's exactly what I wanted to talk about now. And you see this, like what people see in wealth, for instance. I mean, we are a private company and people pay us. I mean, why people pay us for us? Some drivers, regulations, and that. Actually, in Australia now they're asking for building certifications to get some degrees of governmental support of 1 year or permits. Sometimes do it for increase property value, even reduce costs. Talent and client attraction and retention are key. So back to we're back to the pandemic. Would you rather go back to an office that's dark, smells bad, or would you rather stay home? What are if they tell you have to come back? At some point, companies are investing in people, because that's, first of all, it's the biggest expense in a company is people. So might as well invest in them. It's just when you put the numbers, it makes sense. It's hard sometimes it was harder, now it's getting easier to convey that message. If you have good people that sometimes spend a rough patch, would you rather spend make them feel better, or or get rid of them? It's talent attraction and retention is not cheap. So I mean it does pay at the very end. Some others, they do it because it's the right thing to do. I mean, we live in a world where, and now I'm going to talk a little bit more global. So think of LEED 2 and all the green building certification. It's the right thing to do to reduce energy. It's the right thing to do to look for low carbon free footprint. So that also is driving a lot of our clients. Market differentiation. We want to be different. They want it to be. We have a lot of locations that basically say we're meet well. With like say a large commercial office landlord like JLL, they have thousands and thousands of buildings all around the world. Would you go there because you say, well, this building is certified, which means it's good, it's ready to go, we can feel productive from day one. Those things do matter. So yeah, it's a mix of everything that drives people, basically drives people towards us and to get certified or get ready. And also now with ESG reporting, which is tied to, basically it's kind of a way to manage risk in some sense. Also is bringing us to the more in a C-suite level, as a more corporate decision that we need to pursue well in some of the certifications or the ratings. Yeah, some example, for instance, some numbers like, these are not quite scientific. So yeah, but people feel like in a work certified space, there's less absenteeism or less turnover. So those things matter. I mean, when you're in a better space, when you feel the policy support you instead of push you apart, those things pay off. And this, at some point you can put a money sign on it too. And you can see, as in most organizations, now we see the demand is growing significantly. In terms of history, we've been here since 2014. Bream was the first one in England that has 600, started in 1990, has 600,000 locations, and they are spanning 90 plus countries. They started actually as a governing organization, then spun off as an NGO. And there used to be a home mark, so that's why they have so many locations. Many of the homes built in the UK need some mainly energy-based certification. LEED, you might have heard of, started in 1998, has almost 100,000 locations certified in 184 countries. So that brought a lot of market change. Green Star in Australia is particularly strong. That's where it comes from, starting in 2001, and most building. Basically, it's like also like a green building certification that is based there. We are from 2014. In 2020, we released Well V2, which is the version that I showed before. In 2020, we also related health safety rating, and you see how our adoption has gone like exponentially in the last years. I joined in 2018 the company, and you see we were like not even what we used to do in a month. Now we're doing in a day. just to give you a comparison how the market is going. And we have Fitwel 2, that is from 2017. It has like 1,500 locations in 55 countries. So this is growing. A lot of large companies are taking on, and I say sustainability reporting, but also corporate strategy. One thing I want to mention, this is a movement. It's not just us. I talk about Wales in a case, but you see BREEAM, as I said before, LEED. We have dual certification programs that are, we're having a larger agreement because health and health and resource conservation are the key for true sustainability. And sick building cannot be sustainable, and sustainability cannot be unhealthy. So we're forming partnerships with all these organizations, and also driving a little bit on the corporate reporting with ESG reporting standards that are coming more and more, being more and more scrutinized. Why? Because you have claims that you need to verify in order to meet, basically to say to your investors, actually, I'm less exposed to certain things that are non-material. So trying to, it's the materiality, like the value of what we do, or things that are not quite considered like, having a cash value, the ones that are driving this ESG, but are important. In this case, if you have think of a factory that, that they don't know the labor practices downstream and they engage in a country that does modern slavery. Imagine like a journalist discovered, and maybe even the CEO did not know about it, which happens quite a bit. I mean, it's not going to be, that's going to impact the financials, even in crude terms, but like how to leverage that, it's important, and basically, and when you bring these principles, so first of all, you avoid that, you avoid that kind of exposure, but also you embed better principles to your corporate culture. And as I said before, I mean, we have a lot of places that are BREEAM well, LEED well, Green Star well, and so on. So a lot of large buildings are in this kind of dual certification. But again, healthy and sustainable kind of they go together. And one thing is how we do that. So I talk about ESG reporting. That's a kind of one way to do it. Basically corporations try to show what they how much better they're doing in things that are hard to make material, to make economically, to quantify in an easy way. The other thing is what we're trying to do is to move to change the market. At the very essence, what we're trying to do is to change the market for the good. We're trying to catalyze the adoption of what we believe are good strategies that can be applied worldwide, and hope to advocate for this to them to become common practice, sometimes embedded into regulation. We have an advocacy area, for instance. LEED has done for a while. You have green building standards now. BREEAM also, as I said before, came for regulation. Examples of these things are of this moving the needle is like we say, or LEED said before, low VOC paints. 20 years ago, very hard to find, if any. Now they're common practice. You can go to a Home Depot and you're going to find them. So that's how we move. Because we say something, then the market picks up. Okay, we need to cater to these people seeking well, and then we can move the markets. That's the way we're acting actively to bring better, basically, strategies to buildings and organizations. And now, because of the interesting thing with reporting is now you have the C-suite also pushing, okay, we need to seek this kind of principles. We need to align our policies to what these strategies can be. And then they mention that in their sustainability report. And not only that, and not only is for us, for a sustainability report, but these are cases of actually, basically, they put in their, some companies around the world, they put in their description for investors that they're pursuing well, or they're achieving well, or so on. So it becomes a way to reduce risk, which is reducing interest rates. So you see how things kind of start tying out each other. It's not just like a few. I mean, I mentioned Uber, JLL, Goldman Sachs, Cushman & Wakefield. A lot of the real estate players are adding ESG metrics and to their corporate investors, to their own investors, and in those I'll show you a couple of things like Citibank, for instance, Citi, like 40% of their floor area to be LEED well equivalent certified in a city-owned building. So that's part of their operation. That's becoming part of their corporate strategy. The benefits, reduce cost, less exposure, sometimes to risk, but also to make, you make someone might be more interested to work for well, or an investor more interested to invest in city. So better corporate play in some sense. Look at this one as a catalog from the Uber latest ESG report. You see two of the well marks there. So this is more towards the employees saying like, we are actually seeking, we have achieved high marks in a way to say like, we are better players at least to our employees in our buildings. So they're low footprint and high in health in some sense. So summary, kind of to go back to the question regarding the benefits, 90% of the money goes into salaries and benefits. Will you invest in the 90%? I mean, your ROI might be pretty high and pretty soon. And we're almost at time. So with that, I pause here. This is the end of the presentation. I hope you learn a little bit about, well, the driver for certifications in general and the current landscape that we're facing regarding why people seek to these opportunities, these certifications, and why I think we're doing something. I wouldn't call it perfect. We're trying to advance good practices for everyone. Thank you.
Very good, Rodolfo. Thank you so much. Very interesting presentation. I have some questions myself, but I will let the students first ask questions if they want to. There is one question here that maybe Maxi can read on the chat.
So the question says, how does the cost compare between a lead certification versus a WELL certification?
That's a good question that I'm not the most into the cost part, but at least now it's cheaper. However, we are releasing a joint, we're going to basically be able to review both at the same time because there's an organization called GBCI that does the review. For us, we don't review ourselves, so trying to incentivize double certification. Yeah, we're more expensive mainly because we have the on-site testing from a third party. So that adds costs for sure, but also that adds the value that it says someone else came and say your building looks pretty good, it acts pretty good. So that's why the cost differential goes in.
Okay. So any other questions? So you guys, you're welcome to talk also. You don't need to just be writing on the chat. Any questions from the students at all? Well, perhaps they're putting some questions together. In the meantime, Rodolfo, so you did mention, these big corporations as kind of like your main clients. But do you have customers like, more like residential buildings, say, or perhaps, most of us, spend a long time on campus kind of like buildings. Have you interacted with those? And in general,
yes.
Depending on the type of building, are the standards the same?
That's a great question. So for residential, actually, we are releasing a WELL for residential, like a pilot soon, because particularly for single family. Multifamily is, we kind of cover a few things. We have adaptations for them. So if you read, like, there's some, in theory, those strategies adapt. I mean, of course, you're not going to have there are things that you cannot do in a home. Sometimes they do, like, for instance, no smoking policy. It's hard to implement. But let's say the combustion management in a residential building, it's better to put, say, induction stoves instead of gas stoves. So you can definitely do that. So they are, we try to do what we call like more of a one well philosophy, like to have as most generic as possible. Sometimes where you test is different, where you, how you apply certain things for, like, say, healthier insulation materials that, don't need too many VOCs or degrade on time. That's straightforward, kind of applies to both. So yeah, we have thought about that, and I have thought cost sometimes some things. We do have a partnership with enterprise green communities to do double certification, and that is affordable housing system. So we actually help them to craft part of their standard, and we recognize them as well certified. So we're trying to try to dismount the notion this is too expensive. So we try to kind of to cater to different buildings that exist. Same thing with new and existing, as mentioned earlier.
So have you done any work with campus buildings, like university?
Campus, yeah, sorry, I forgot campus. Yeah, there's a few campus buildings that are in the process or certified. I don't have the list, but yes, for sure. We had a whole welfare education area. We had like a well subterranean whole school district meeting our standard. So yes.
So the other question that I have is that, in parallel, people talk about this rubric or this concept called smart buildings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those, I think, I'm not super familiar, but my understanding is that the focus is kind of like try to minimize energy consumption. There's like a lot of like sensors and things, and turn the lights off and this and that. Well, I see this idea of certifying, from health perspective, very much tied to that, right?
Yeah.
So I think there are opportunities.
Absolutely.
So if you can comment.
Yeah, think for instance,
relate to smart buildings, to the
absolutely.
smart building concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Think for instance, VOC sensors. If your air is getting too stale, you're gonna still feeling sleepy. Bring some air. So it's just what you look for to craft your thresholds have a health component as well. So, you can have like a very good building, but it has to be smart enough to track health and energy. A building can be very energy efficient, but you feel like it basically puts you to sleep. It's not going to be very, why you have it in the first place. So that's why like put people first is kind of our motto in some sense, because it makes a difference. But yeah, absolutely. Smart sensors are part of it. There's not enough at this point. When we think about my own area, water quality, very few sensors that are reliable and cost effective.
Right. And I also see, right, that, if you had more sensors, if you relate this to smart buildings somehow, then you could be much more like proactive than reactive, right? You could be
correct.
Perhaps, telling a building, hey, if you continue with whatever policy you have right now, perhaps a month down the road, this whatever standard is going to go, or this whatever metric is going to go below standard. And, you can ultimately, improve this kind of technology by having kind of like a closed loop kind of approach, right?
Yep. And that's what we're partnering to with, that's why when we released the performance rating, we put a lot of sensor paths. So to actually encourage manufacturers to close that loop. And again, our objective is to change the market for the good. So kind of to actually foster that innovation.
Right. And the last question that I had, I forgot to ask when I asked about your customers. So are these things done mostly for new buildings or existing buildings? Or
both. The idea is to make them in both. Our office is in 120 or 100 something years old building that we renovated.
And so I would assume that you guys are certified with your own certification.
We had to walk the talk. So I had to submit the papers to the reviewer. Otherwise it'll be kind of we had the duty to do our job, to go through pain. It's not easy sometimes, when you think about thermal comfort, or you think of water quality in New York is relatively straightforward if it's a well-managed building. So working with the landlord too, because it's a lease building, a floor within an old building. So yeah, definitely there's it is possible. We confirm that by actually doing it.
Yeah, and I think overall, this is a very, kind of like a new kind of concept somewhat, right? And, for the students in particular, I feel that there are a lot of opportunities in this area of, to develop new sensing techniques and, plan of actions, to ultimately have the buildings that better solve people, as you said, right?
Yeah, and also to not to forget that everything's connected. So if you make a sensor, make sure that you use less impactful materials, that don't put too much lead in it, stuff like that. So that's the beauty of the system itself. It's a little more holistic. We can have the best sound of absorbing panels, but they're full of for instance, like solids or materials that actually can have health effects in the long run. So,
and my very last question, Rodolfo. So of course, there's LEED, there's green, there are all of these different certification companies.
Right.
And apparently, based on what you said, the standards are not the same from company to company.
No, we have, yes and no. We do.
And that's what I asked before, like who set the standards? Is it the EPA?
Yeah, we have
the World Health Organization, or who is it?
No, we have what we call crosswalk. So we talk to those organizations. So we see, okay, when we follow similar features, if you say if you achieve a BREEAM or LEED, okay, you get already these points in well. So you don't start from the bottom. So we acknowledge sometimes the thing, because we all want to change the market. So we don't want to. We want to make sure that if someone wants to have the best building, they have, say, dual certification, for instance, they have to do what they have to do, not repeat things with such a minimal change that we're going to stop it from doing. That will be deterring their goals. So yeah, we talk all over, because we're still small movement, if you think about it.
Right. I have a feeling that maybe eventually the government is going to step in and try to set standards
absolutely
across the board. Like, I mean, in my case, I work in, power delivery systems, right? And in there is the government that is setting the standards, of reliability in my case, right? Because otherwise, it seems like, if you get certified by this company, there might be some standards, but if you're certified by this other company, then you might not be even certified by this other company, right? So there should be some sort of like regularization of those criteria, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but we're still, I mean, at the end, we have an advocacy side. So we're trying to do that, actually. We're kind of a mission driven organization. We try to embed this into code. Eventually, what is health now might not be the health later. Also, meet that worldwide. Ideally, public health should be a given, but it's not. But since we can advance in so many areas, we're trying to move it forward. But yeah, it's a task that at some point will be taken by governments. But again, we have the ability to say something that represents leadership. Right. So, government, when it's regulation, you gotta meet it, otherwise you get fined. This one's like you voluntarily go there, and that sets you up, above, what's regulation now. Maybe, and if it becomes regulation, you're better prepared for it.
All right, so those are very good, Rodolfo. Yeah, I appreciate your seminar. So I don't know if students would like to ask more questions. Any of you guys? Maybe opportunities for internship or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we do have actually a posts. If you go to wellcertified.com, you'll see in the careers. There's sometimes we do have internships. We just closed the one for fall for summer, but they will be in fall too. We do have quite a bit in building science working directly with me and others. So yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So it seems that the students don't have more questions right now. So at this point, yeah, I would like to thank you again, Rodolfo. As I said, it's been a pleasure having you. Haven't seen you in a while, so it's also good to see you. And okay, so we for the students, we are going to have another seminar 2 weeks from now, and I will, guys, see you then. And other than that, thank you so much, Rodolfo, and we'll be in touch.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.